thought I'd do something a little bit different today. So this is a game I made for my youngest daughter a couple of years ago. Uh, she just wanted a game that had some of her favorite characters from one of her favorite shows. So I think sometimes we forget how we can just take something and make it in this case I guess this would be considered a fan made, but uh, yeah. So sometimes we make our games too complex, where in reality all we need is something simple to make somebody else happy. So just go over this and show you how it's done. Probably took me about just about a day, maybe a little more than a day, to get it all done, because there really isn't a lot going on. Sometimes we lose track of all the scope that we create in our games. We just keep adding ideas, but if we limit it down, should be able to get something done pretty quickly. So, and one of the things I used to have is the macros and the variables that were preset. So we have a game, some different steps, like pause, game playing, or game over, whether the characters or there's an idle check, whether they're left or right, up and down, and then some presets for frames per second. I know in GameMaker 2 you set the frames per second at the animation, but before it was you need to set it if you were going to change the speed for the different animations. So in general, the room is pretty simple. There's not a lot in it. I have a controller for the score that displays the score and the winner, and a timer. I have the two characters in there, as well as the different objects. A platform where an object where you can't walk through to just stand on top of the bubble makers, and then the bubble makers themselves. So then we have different objects. I'll go over the sprites real quick. So this is probably where I spent most of my time, actually, was creating the sprites. I have two main characters, walking, idle, crying, jumping, and then a profile that shows who won at the end or next to their score. We just have a generic shadow for each character to be shared for the characters. The bubble machine, whether it's idle or running, and then we had some different things for a sprite animation for the bubble growing when it's just floating around. I think that's just a circle. Yeah, just a circle. The shadow for the bubble, and then one that shows that it pops. The little mats of grass, and the tears for crying, and just general background grass that gets randomly generated. So there's only about 20 different sprites created. Then we have object-wise, we only have, I don't know, let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 different objects. So grass-wise, we have something it's just when it's created, sets to the depth, picks a random image, and then whether it looks right or left. Tier-wise, this is just when the character at the end loses, they start crying. So this is just basically a particle that gets generated and gets sent off. No gravity, so it's a straight line and doesn't last very long. And once its life is over, it's done. The timer. So we have a timer with we're going to display seconds and subseconds, how long the timer goes, and whether, so when we start the game, we're going to have it playing. When we restart the game, we reset the timer, reset some variables, and then start off playing. Spacebar we'll pause it so we can change our game state. So have some sort of pause within the game. So drawing the, I guess we'll look at the steps first. So the timer wise, so if we're in pause, we're not going to decrement. If we're not paused, we're going to decrement, depending on which type. So the timer here, we're going to, so if it's not game over, but so this will tell us we just finished our game. We're going to change it to game over, set everything to 0, and then determine who's the winner is and whether they're happy or sad, and just play a general sound. Otherwise, the game is just going to keep determining the seconds that are going through. We're going to draw at the top, we're going to draw this whether if there's game over, the game over and the reset, some messages. If it's paused, press spacebar to start again. And then if the game's over, or if the game's not over, we're going to show the time. And if the game is over, we're going to show who the winner is. So like profile on the screen, and then draw, just some general text of the winner. So a block is just something we can test against. There's no code. The circle is this one's considered a block, but it's the grass that exists. So a controller for the score. We do initialize the globals. Set the color we're going to draw, and so in general, when this gets created, we do a grass, create the grass. So I think that's we'll go over here real quick and look at that. So create the grass is just creating some random grass around 150 objects around the screen, or different sprites. So when we draw the GUI, this is where we're going to draw the player score. So I generally use an array, a global array, to whether it's player 1 or player 2. In this case, I had the George profile on for player 1, Richard's for player 2. Then I made a full screen, not full screen code, and then quit. So this one really is just displaying the score at the top, and this font angle will make it go back and forth a little bit. So I have three bubble objects. One is when it's growing, so we're going to create it, have the sprite grow, set the animation speed. Just every step is going to be in the right location, right depth. And then when the animation is done, it's going to switch to a float, and then we're going to destroy it. And then this other code is going to change the scale. So like I randomly generate how big the bubble is going to be. I'm going to pass that on to the child, to the next instance. So the one that's floating around, it's going to have it's the float sprite, no animation speed. It's going to pick a direction. So how fast it moves in that direction. Let's see what we got here. Oh, this one's going to be, I think, random. Oh, the alarm 0 is it'll change direction after a couple seconds. It'll just do that once. Just give it a little more variety. This other alarm is for how long the bubble is going to. So eventually, the life of the bubble, if nobody touches it, it's going to pop anyway. So 5 to 10 seconds, and then we're going to go in there and switch over to the pop animation. And so this bobble is it going up and down on the screen, so it gives a little more depth to the object. So it's just going up and down on the screen. and what the general direction is, whether it's down first or up first. So every step, we're going to change the bobble. If we've moved it far enough, we're going to switch directions. Player. Oh, if it touches the player, we're going to go ahead and switch it to a pop. And then we're going to, if we're still playing, we're going to play the pop sound and then assign the score to the player. Since we're using an array, we can just go check the player's ID, and then that will assign the score to one or the other. I don't really need the animation in since I'm not playing anything. Draw. So this one is the variable up and down, or XS. There's no side bobble. There's just an up and down bobble. And the bubble pop is just, we're gonna create it, how long it lasts, and then destroy it. We don't even have code other than just to destroy it. So the machine itself starts off as idle, so it's not running. There's no animation speed, how long it's going to be running. So we create an alarm in 1 to 10 seconds to start it. That's going to be how long it's going to run, and then the switch to running animation, and then another 10 to 20 seconds from the time it starts, we're going to start it again. So the playing, or for every step if we're playing, this just determines whether we're running or not, and then so if we're not playing, we don't want to be running out of our time, so we can keep going later. If the running keeps going, we're going to create bubbles that grow. So this is actually the code to generate the bubbles. So all we have left here is we have just a couple things left, and then so the player will generate whether they're idle, the direction they face, how fast they can move, and then the player ID. So that's when we hit the bubble, gets popped, we can assign that score. So like Richard here, I think he has the player ID too. And that way we can make him the second player. So this player has the idle, code to move around. So this code has, he's going to use, can either use the arrows or the gamepad, the direction he's facing, whether he can move or not. So whether he's hit something that's going to block him. So if he can move, we'll do these different, whether it'll be a walk animation or he's getting into idle. And then if he's not, if the game's not playing, and if he's crying, this is what we're going to create some sprites for that. And then the draw event, we're just drawing a shadow and then what direction he's facing. Same thing with George. It's pretty much the same code. We just don't assign a ID because the default for the player object is 1. So really this code is pretty much the same, except we're looking at different move keys, and then the controller's different. Everything else is the same except for which animation sprite we're using. This probably could be consolidated down under here, but I did not do that. Like I said, we're trying to just get something out, just create something quickly. So our scripts, we haven't initialized, so the scores sounds true, and the kind of the game playing state. Reset our variables the same. Playing the sound, so the sound is on. Even though I do this check, I don't have any way to turn it off. There's no key bound to turn it off. It's just if we're going to make it more elaborate, then you could do that. Or should this generating the grass, and then just stopping the sound. So in general, that's a quick game. You know, sometimes it's just more fun to get something out there and play with somebody. So don't let that deter you from making a quick game to play with somebody. Turn on the sound so you can hear it. Alright, so there's no sound unless you start popping. As you can tell, it could be quite annoying. So somebody's going to be crying in a second here. And there we go. There's the game. I'm playing with that's what I had for, I was playing with my daughter. I made it for my daughter so she and I could play a game together. Alright, until next time, good luck coding.